Hi everybody, Brian here, quantlabs.net. Okay, welcome. Question came in, very frequently asked question about programming languages. But first, if you're into these topics, of course, go over and visit quantlabs.net/book for some trade secrets on what I use. We'll be using with Excel Excel add-ins for screeners. Very expensive. Some of these people are charging, but this one is 200, 300 bucks, whatever you want. Okay, let's go over the question. This is the usual question I get. Hello, Brian. I know you've recommend testing and recoding in C++ and Java. That's way old information. But what if your trading strategy can afford some delay, like a pair trade on the last 1 minute chart? I typically trade like this last 20 minutes to several hours. Is it okay to use Python as your main language for execution? Absolutely. C++ and Java are, you go out there and you do your searches. From my perspective, I've done both. I cringe at both C++, especially C++. Java, up there as well. Forget C. I know C inside out, at least with the Kernighan and Ritchie API or framework when it was back in its 80s and 90s before all this other fun stuff came out. And if you're into programming and living lonely Friday, Saturday nights, be my guest, have it at it. You'll enjoy coding in both languages, trying to find things like null pointer exceptions or just crazy memory related. And I would not recommend these languages at all unless you enjoy it. In terms of execution for both languages, I think you're really only worrying about these when you get into the exchanges like the CME or the ones based out of New York or London for speed, where you need that microsecond edge. If you are watching, and I've talked about this on my webinar today, and it's a 2-hour webinar, and a good chunk of the time was talking about specifically this with Python. I think what you're looking for is splitting hairs, because if you are on an exchange a la high frequency trading or anything remotely close to that, what you'll find is you'll have a memory, a coding nightmare maintaining the stuff. You will have very low, like this is low level stuff. You're really having no advantage, and it's really only good for trading at broker accounts that allow a la high frequency trading on their exchange, typically via C++, and this is where you want to trade within a second kind of thing, and your server is going to be in the Equinix, or whatever they call it, the hosting provider, data service provider, next to the New York or London stock exchanges, and then you're already in the neighborhood of about a couple of grand a month just for that. If you really want fast, and that's what you want, you would probably want to get a protocol in Fix. And when you deal with Fix, that's another ball of wax I wouldn't even want to think about. At my age, I just don't want to go down that path. So unless you have a large account like $250,000, $500,000, then yes, pursue Java, C++, and worry about at that level. Once you get into things like Python, a couple things you have to take note is what will make a difference in Python. Yes, you can definitely do execution, as you said, in a couple of minutes, 20 minutes, a couple hours. That's fine. Python's the ticket. If you want to speed it up, it depends upon the type of order you want. In my case, I like market orders because I want to fill now, not tomorrow. So that's what I do. That's a big factor. Also, with Python, depending upon how you architect the code, the architecting can make a massive difference. If you're going to try to treat Python what it originally was designed for as a scripting sequential based kind of coding style, Python is great. You'll be able to easily maintain it and maintain your code. But if you're trying to do Python with this crazy ass object oriented classes and whatnot, you will have really hard time with Python in that regard, because Python is really not designed for that. Python was supposed to be just a glorified scripting language when it first came out, and that's what it's brilliant at. But yet you have all these amazing packages that came out with it, and you keep your code very simple. Python is a great language because maintainability will be a lot faster than maintaining something which we would call a hornet's nest if it was done in C++ or Java. So to answer your question, yes, Python is good enough depending upon what you're coding for your account size on top of the kind of asset class you want. Now, for instance, if you're doing retail and trying to do Python, not recommended. I'd rather just stay in a good platform like what I'm going to be using, MotiveWave with Java API in the MotiveWave SDK. That's fine too, because you have all the plumbing there. All they're doing is pushing buttons with a MotiveWave to get all the functionality that you want working with MotiveWave. So Python's good for that. But Java and Python are two different beasts depending upon what you do. I would recommend you watch today's webinar on that. And let me just go over to the browser here and look for what I'm looking for. If you go to Quant Labs, the YouTube channel, all you gotta do is go into the meanwhile, back on the Western Front, I've put out a webinar today a video called Webinar on E-mini Micro versus Crypto Trading Ideas. Watch that. We talk about that, Java versus Python. But again, it's just going to repeat what I'm just saying, but in greater detail there. So you can watch that. 2 hours long. It's worth watching, I think. So hopefully I'll answer your question. Again, if you're into these topics, for anyone out there, do come to quantlabs.net/book. You'll get 2 PDF for free by filling in all your details here, your email and all that, and your name. And then you'll get the books, and that includes the screeners, add-in, Excel add-in I've mentioned, an actual open source Java based project is very popular for stock markets globally. Very powerful. It's open source, which means it's free with source code. That's the amazing thing about it. So I have that, and then you'll be put on the email list for all the stuff that I'm doing, including all the new, well, not new, but current products that I've got. So that's pretty well it. Hopefully I'll answer your question. Let me know, and we shall talk to you later. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day. And for those that we're still on a 4-hour countdown to the Quant Elite for 3 years, down to 2 years, and probably the next week down to 1 year. So get on it now while you can. Talk to you later.